don't be afraid of GA4. I know I have been talking to so many people in SEO from last a few weeks and months, and they tell me they're afraid of using GA4. And I ask why, and they say, because it has changed so much in the last 2 years and we still don't know where things are right or wrong. And I tell them, don't be afraid because it's getting better.
It's getting better.
It's getting better, yes. I would not say 100%, but I think I have been able to solve so many problems over the last 2 years in GA4. And I understand that it's quite a shock when it came in after UA to GA4, and everybody has to move to GA4 quite quickly. But I would only say that it's a good tool. When you get into it, only then you would understand its value. Just looking from the outside and judging a book or by its cover and stuff wouldn't make any sense. So just dive into it. Don't be afraid and reach out to the community of GA4 support who can help us. But once we get into it and see its value, it's going to benefit the business in the longer run, really. I am Priya Verma, and this is SEO in 2025 Additional Insights.
Priya, what's your additional insight for SEO in 2025?
So my top SEO tip for 2025 is to focus on improving your analytics so you can understand what's really working for your SEO and where to optimize your SEO strategy.
So how do you make your analytics ready for your SEO?
Interesting question. And that's what every business keeps asking, how do you do your analytics ready for your SEO? I am a very big fan of Google and I love working in GA4. I know many of them don't agree with me because of the recent changes that goes on in GA4 in the last 2 years. But trust me, if you use GA4 for your analytics, it has got so much to offer you. It's just that we can't see, even I can't see what's there in GA4. I am still learning. So when I talk about improving your analytics, all comes down to your website, right? SEO is no longer just about traffic. It's also about value. And it has got 3 important basic things to track, which is traffic, landing, and revenue. How would you know if your SEO traffic is coming in on your website properly and the landing page that you're using is okay? All that insights comes in to GA4 into your analytics. And you think about it, SEO is more about ranking your website on the top of any search engine, not just Google. And when I focus on Google, it means Google offers analytics, and the search engine of Google is as well, Google under Google umbrella. So when you use GA4 for your analytics implementation and data capturing, you're not actually putting any load on your website because that's taken care by the Google. So you are basically optimizing your website by having Google on your website. And that's how analytics, and plus it offers you so many things about time on website, engagement rate, bounces from your landing pages, and how user interacts, which pages do they interact, scroll. There are a couple and lots of things that you can talk about. And without good analytics, you're literally guessing and not really optimizing.
So it's great to hear you exceptionally passionate about GA4 there. And obviously, as you say, some people are, some people aren't.
No.
But in relation to why you are so passionate, why you think it's such a great tool to use, is a good summary of the fact that Google have access to the information, obviously, how your website's performing on their search engines, and they're actively telling you what to do to become more effective at making your brand, your website appear more prominently in their search results.
Yeah. So if you think about SEO, basically, in the last couple of years, there were Google Chrome in itself holds a very large market share, right? And that's the search engine that most of the business basically want to, because with Safari getting into all these cookie and privacy restrictions, what is the browser that is left, which is Google? So the Chrome is in itself a browser where user kind of tends to interact with more. And that's the browser where your site interaction is measured based by Google metrics like INP scores or Core Web Vital scores, right? How do you measure those? You measure by optimizing your website. How would you optimize your website? Then you have data to understand which pages of your website are not performing better and which are performing better, right? Let's say you have a landing page And that landing page has tons and tons of tags in it. Facebook Pixel, they've got Adobe Analytics, they've got Bing, and lots and lots of stuff. So if you try to rank that landing page on top of your Google search engine, it just wouldn't, because the site is too heavy for the code to land it on the top of your search engine. So you want to optimize your website, and you might have to remove all these tags which are not very important for your business. That as well is part of SEO ranking. And all of this is measured based on the Google metrics that Google provides in order to get your site on top of Google search engines, which is called organic traffic, which in terms is like, we call it nowadays as SEO. The whole point comes around optimizing your website, but the point on how to do it lies with your analytics data set is the key.
So it's a powerful point that you made in relation to Chrome. Would you say that analysts, SEOs are missing out if they're using software that isn't GA4?
I would say partially, yes, they are. Because if you're using any other analytics tool, if it will kind of give you the same metrics, and it would give you sessions, and it would give you time engagement, etc. But when you're not using GA4, you're not able to integrate your website with other marketing tools, for example. So you're not able to integrate it with BigQuery. So when you get GA4 into BigQuery, and then in BigQuery, when you start getting data from other sources of SEO, like, for example, Href or Chrome UX, and all those sort of things, then you get a unified way in one place, while it's possible with other tool sets as well. But GA4 have all that in-house, all that have inbuilt, which makes your marketing decisions more effective and more appropriate. So I wouldn't say they're losing, but I think they're struggling to get there, which could have been made easier with GA4.
So you mentioned BigQuery there as well, and I'd like to dive into that, why you use that and how you use it. But I mean, first of all, in relation to GA4, what data should be used in GA4? What data are you driven to, or do you tend to focus on initially?
So in GA4, if I just talk about GA4, there is an entire set of traffic sources reports in GA4 that you can get. And you don't have to do anything to get that report. Basically, you just have to have a snippet on your website, and that's it. You're going to get that report anyways. You're going to get which pages did the user interact and attract organic traffic from. You've got channels in your GA4, which would tell you whether the user came from an SEO or an organic channel, or whether they came from a PPC, email, and stuff like that. Google also had enhanced measurement in it, which would track scrolls, which would track clicks. And all of this kind of gives you more and more data on the engagement of the landing page that a user lands from an SEO perspective, right? Different metrics that you have in Google are bounce behavior, so bounce rate. If a user does land on your landing page and you can get that SEO traffic on your website and getting the user on that landing page, are they converting? Are they bouncing off your landing page? That means they don't find the content relevant, right? So if you have your search engine and somebody types in, give me a car insurance website, and you bring up a bike insurance link, and the user gets landed into a bike insurance, it doesn't serve his purpose, right? Why would he continue? He would just close the tab off, and that's where you get your bounce. And how would you know that the user has bounced? So it would basically come from your GA4, which has that metric very handy in its own definitions, and it has seemed to work quite well for businesses. Time spent on the page is another metric, that if a user has found your content relevant, are they really interacting with it? Are they really spending more than a minute on that page? Or they're moving, clicking on a, let's say, no more, and going to a next page. And eventually, what are they doing? So the entire end-to-end journey flow is something that you can again get in GA4. And I'm not saying that you can't get in other tools, but it's just very straightforward in GA4, which helps you integrate with other things. And because we're talking about SEO and we're talking about organic and we're talking about Google Chrome, it kind of makes more sense.
So you talked a bit about bounce rates there as well. I mean, if an SEO, I think the challenge with analytics, GA4 certainly is knowing where to start and what to focus on as well. And if an SEO is starting within an organization and has access to all of this data, how do you go about prioritizing what needs to be done first?
That's a very tricky question, and not everybody is able to come on to the priority of things that they want to do, right? As an analytics implementation and consultant engineer, I would recommend to basically look at your website where you get the most traffic from. And it depends on the reach that you're doing to your customers. Let's say you already are having your landing pages and those are being reached to your customers through, let's say, paid marketing and stuff like that. And you're already driving traffic into analytics. You need to find out where that traffic is coming from. Where are you getting in your website more traffic on? That's the first bit you want to capture and you want to understand. And do you want to lower your spend on that traffic if it's coming, let's say, from PPC and up your spend for SEO? So it basically depends. So like for a business I work in, we're very focused on landing pages and focused on getting the user on the website, generating a lead, and then following them through the journeys. But it might be different for an e-commerce website, right? And for e-commerce, the focus might be the product detail page that they want to get the users more in. To start with, we have to know which pages and which part of the website is more traffic driven and can eventually lead to the revenue faster.
And what are metrics and dimensions, and what do you do with that information?
So yes, so there are a whole lot of dimensions and metrics that you can use in GA4, but to use the right one is the trick. So let's say I will just take a use case where you want to understand the time spent on your landing pages, right? You took all the landing pages report, and the dimension in this case is landing page, right? And you look at the metric called average engagement time per session. Now, that would give you on each landing pages how much time did the user spend on. But before looking at the engagement, you would also want to look at the views that the user did for that landing page and where did that landing page drive the user to. If your revenue conversion from that landing page has been decreasing over a month or has remained constant, you want to look at the engagement time that the user is spending on that landing page. If they are not spending more time on that landing page, then we drill down into more metrics, then we drill down into bounces, then we break it down with other dimensions like pages, or if your website has any specific dimensions to look at. For example, browser that they're using, or for example, the product type that they viewed on, stuff like that. You drill it down more and more to get into the final hypothesis. So you have a hypothesis in mind. It's just you have to prove it through data. That's what it's all about, basically.
And you mentioned BigQuery earlier on as well. So how do you go about getting the data into there, and why do you use that tool as well?
BigQuery is the ultimate reporting tool that you could use for businesses which requires more inside details on different metrics and dimensions. Yes, you have GA4 and you could use ready to go and self-serve reports in GA4. But what BigQuery gives you is integration with other platforms as well, right? Like, for example, for keywords, you could use Ahrefs, and then UX report from Chrome you can use for some other, link builders and stuff like that. And when you integrate your GA4 data into BigQuery, it's more raw, it's more unsampled. You get more in-depth dimensions and metrics in GA4, and that you could basically use in any other reporting UI, basically Power BI or Looker Studio, and you could customize based on your requirements. So that's where BigQuery comes in, not just for GA4, but also with integrating to other platforms and driving the report in just one single reporting UI, for example.
And I guess you're also saving that data for the long term as well, because data won't stay in GA4 indefinitely.
Yes. So in GA4, there is a retention of data. So in GA4, you got like events data and user data, and they both have specific retention policies. But in BigQuery, you can customize that retention policy, and you can have that data there stayed for longer, let's say 5 years and 6 years. And then, of course, you have to work with your legal to able to be approved that. But yeah, that's a possibility that you can do in BigQuery. Yes.
Priya, what's the key takeaway from the tip you shared today?
Okay, so the key takeaway is don't be afraid of GA4. I know I have been talking to so many people in SEO from last a few weeks and months, and they tell me they're afraid of using GA4. And I ask why, and they say, because it has changed so much in the last 2 years, and we still don't know where things are right or wrong. And I tell them, don't be afraid because it's getting better.
It's getting better.
It's getting better, yes. I would not say 100%, but I think I have been able to solve so many problems over the last 2 years in GA4. And I understand that it's quite a shock when it came in after UA to GA4, and everybody has to move to GA4 quite quickly. But I would only say that it's a good tool. When you get into it, only then you would understand its value. Just looking from the outside and judging a book or by its cover and stuff wouldn't make any sense. So just dive into it. Don't be afraid and reach out to the community of GA4 support who can help us. But once we get into it and see its value, it's going to benefit the business in the longer run, really.
But I guess it's easier if there's a professional analytics person inside the organization, or at least there's an agency that specializes in analytics that does the implementation, that does the heavy work. Perhaps there's an SEO that maybe is also a broad digital marketer and they don't have a big team within an organization. In that scenario, do you think they should get some kind of external GA4 professional to come in and get everything set up for them?
That's not a bad idea. Right? That's not a bad idea. If you do not have a setup or a team in your own internal organization and you want to drive value, some of the team does is they upskill themselves. They learn GA4, like the basic stuff in GA4. And for SEO, you basically require the basic stuff to start with. And once you get into that position, they upskill themselves to do it. Hiring an agency involves lots of other factors of cost, of resources, of time, and stuff like that. But I won't say it's a bad option. It depends on the business priority. How much do they want to utilize GA4? Some of the businesses still are using their legacy systems, which doesn't even tell them that the SEO traffic is correct and the attribution for SEO traffic is correct. But they still keep using it and are now exploring other options. So it's never bad to explore and reach out to others, basically.
Priya Verma is a digital analytics implementation engineer at Compare the Market, and you can find her over on LinkedIn. Priya, thanks so much for adding your additional insight to SEO in 2025.
Thank you so much for having me, David.
I've been your host, David Bain, and you've been listening to SEO in 2025 Additional Insights, a Majestic series that complements the original podcast, video series, and book. Find out more at SEOin2025.com.